What do you mean? You mean you have a channel called Jeffrey McMahon? That's not a good name. No, that's your name. Jeffrey McMahon is your name. You know, if I was starting a YouTube channel and it was only about watches, it was exclusively about watches, it would be called Diver Watch Tendencies. Now, I would really want to call it Managing Your Diver Watch Tendencies. But that's too long. It would just be called Diver Watch Tendencies. I've been thinking about watches lately. You? What? Well, first of all, if you've never seen my channel before, I have an obsession with watches. And it's disgusting. And I'm wearing a pretty nice looking watch right here. It's a Seiko Cyan Blue Diver. It's a pretty nice shade of blue. SBDC 065. So yeah, I think about watches a lot. And here's what I want to talk about today. I want to reject your explanations for why, not just me, but why a lot of us are watch obsessed. There are certain explanations, I reject them, and I'm going to give you two explanations for why I think we are watch obsessed. So here's the thing. Number one, here's the first explanation. You're not really into watches. You're just, you're an obsessive, addicted person, and you just transfer one addiction to another. You're just like a frog jumping on one lily pad to another. Boom, 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 boom. So that's kind of true, but I'm going to reject that explanation. I've always been obsessed. I played dice baseball, a game I invented. I remember Snake Eyes was a home run, double six was a base on balls, anything equaling a 7 was a strikeout. And I would play dice baseball and announce the games into a tape recorder for about 12 hours a day when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. I was obsessed with that. I was obsessed with bodybuilding when I was a teenager. Went and saw Pumping Iron in about 1976. Was obsessed with bodybuilding. As I've grown older, there was a phase where I got obsessed with radios. That kind of got killed recently since I listened to radio apps on my smartphone, my Galaxy S9. I love shaving with old school razors, the Gillette Fat Boy. So I do have an obsessive personality, but I do reject that we would just transfer one obsession for another. I'll give you an example. I am obsessed with good coffee, with really good food, good pizza, good burritos for my cheat meals. And those obsessions don't prevent me from being obsessed with watches. The watch obsession exists all on its own. If your obsession theory was true, then my ability to get absorbed by shaving or coffee or really good food, it would take away my obsession from the watches. And it does not. It doesn't take away from that obsession at all. A second explanation that I reject is, all right, watch community, you guys are just lonely people, you're disconnected, and you're commiserating with each other on social media and online because you're just lonely and you're just desperate for some kind of connection. So here's my explanation for that. So if you study the human condition, I think we're all to some degree pretty lonely and pretty disconnected. In fact, there's a literary genre that I find fascinating. It's called modernism. And modernism posits that we think we know each other and we think we have friends, but we really don't even understand each other, even though we think we do. We wouldn't even understand ourselves. There's a famous novel about this. It's called The Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford. If you don't have time to read a novel, I'll give you another example. Sherwood Anderson has a short story. It's online. It's called The Other Woman. And I swear to God, that story is crazy. It's about a guy, he doesn't really know what makes him tick. He doesn't know what makes other people tick. But I think even if you are pretty well integrated into the community, you belong to, you might go to some kind of, I don't know, some kind of yoga retreat at the beach, like I see when I take my girls to Redondo Beach every weekend. I always see people chillaxing with each other. I still think there's a certain amount of disconnection and loneliness, and I don't think you should stigmatize us as watch obsessives for being particularly lonely and disconnected. I think it's part of the human condition, so I reject that explanation. The third explanation is you guys are just superficial status seekers. You want power jewelry, you want status. No, I reject your explanation. Here's the thing. Of course, you know, we're all lobsters at the bottom of the reef, and we're all fighting for status and power. I understand that, and we have all sorts of status markers beyond watches. We have our real estate and our college degrees and our cars and our physiques. I think, you know, watches are just really one small part of that, and in my experience with watch obsessives, they're really not trying to find status. My experience with watch obsessives, including we're tormented, man. We don't really care about status. We want to get this madness over with, and we can't. And so that brings me to a couple of explanations for watch addiction, watch obsession, that I think are more legit. And it would take someone like me to come up with this. All right. Being watch obsessed allows us to create established hierarchies, orders, tiers. We love established hierarchies. You know, our top tier watches, our mid tier watches, our lower tier watches. Established hierarchies give us a sense of order and control in a crazy world. I think that's very comforting to us. And we love to be know-it-alls and say, such and such watch, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, whatever. You're just, I get it, you have a lot of anxiety, and creating established hierarchies makes you feel better. I do it too. I do it too. Another explanation that I think is legit is, you know, we get older and we lose a lot of our mojo, our moxie. We become numb. We become psychologically numb. And I think watches are, we want to be a little kid again. We want to be enchanted again. We want to fall in love again with something. I remember I caught my first fish at Bass Lake by Yosemite when I was 6 years old. I think that's what I want to do when I unbox a watch. It's like catching that first fish when I was at Bass Lake. Recapturing childhood. Now those are more legit. It took someone like me to come up with that. Hey, do you agree with me? Tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I'm out.